Well, my guest today on DatelineAbuja, I have with me Ali SOYODE, the founder, Nigerian in Diaspora Mentoring Co., and also the presidential candidate of Yes Party. Thank you so much for being part of DatelineAbuja. And I also have Barrister ESTHER UZOMA, the ED Proactive Gender Initiatives, and also a convener, Nigerian Civil Situation Room. You're welcome to DatelineAbuja.
Thank you very much.
So today we'll be discussing electoral violence, which cannot be overemphasized. But let's go down the history line of electoral violence in Nigeria. Mr. Ali.
Well, thank you very much for having me. In every election in any country, there's always time that people are a bit concerned about what is going to happen. When we now talk about election 2019 or any in Nigeria, but this is the most important one, is people, the electorate, have to be absolutely careful not to be used for intimidation, not to be used against opposition parties, because at the end of the day, what we're fighting for is the Nigerian independency, Nigerian greatness, and to have a good leadership and good governance in the country. So I think it is avoidable, but so far what we have seen across the country, the sketches of violence in many of the states where rallies have taken place, especially to do with opposition. And again, violence really does not need to be physical. There could be other avenues that other opposition parties feel they have been threatened. Maybe they want to have rallies and they are not allowed to. Is violating their right as a political party to hold rallies in places, and especially when they have given instruction or they have sought advice and they have written to the authority, and the authority in some cases have actually given them permission or lead them to withdraw it. That is violence as well against political parties. So I think it's something that is very, very key, as you rightly mentioned.
Yeah, Barrister Osama, what are the causes of electoral violence? What are the key causes? We know there are a lot to mention, but can you just mention a few points?
Well, perceived injustice, inequality, and lack of inclusivity. Now, this perceived injustice, it occurs prior to the elections, when people think that they have suffered unjustly, particularly at the hands of the ruling class. When people think that the machinery of government for addressing these perceived injustices are insufficient. These things trigger electoral violence. Above all, the human being, typically embarks on ventures they think they can succeed in. People take to violence or any form of crime for that matter because they think they can. So weak institutions, the perception that the criminal justice system is weak, people can get away with anything. Also, that impunity, nothing go happen. Yeah, so these are some of the factors that drive this electoral violence. Proliferation of arms. Where are people getting all these guns from? Where are they getting it from? So when elections come, these are factors that are already in play, but they precipitate during elections, and then they generally boil over. These are some of the reasons.
Sorry, coming from the law now, you just said something about the law, and do you think that INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, is technically handicapped in actually perpetrating, catching all the masterminds behind domestic violence, or the perpetrators?
The truth of the matter is that INEC is not omniscient. There are institutions of government that should ordinarily function so they can provide the ground for INEC to exist. INEC is incapable of securing the electoral system. Coming in the climate, for instance, we have had a former Minister of Defense talk about Nigerian army and say that the army is polarized. T.Y. Danjuma, he said that, listen, that this army is polarized. He said it openly, brazenly. He celebrated that statement, you see. And then beyond that also, this is also happening in a climate where the insecurity in the Northeast is heightened, all right? It's also happening in an environment where state governors, have vigilante groups, in quotes, who they pay, they're on their payroll, they buy uniforms for them, groups who are seriously contending with the state power of monopoly over violence. These are happening. INEC cannot control that. So build up to that to these elections. We have, this is happening. We have groups who are, who say, listen, we are security agency for this state. And they are not the Nigerian police. They are not the Nigerian army. So they exist at the pleasure of the governors of the various states.
Wow.
These are things. So INEC cannot control. In fact, INEC is actually at the mercy of this security. So more than ever, we need our security agencies to rise up. We've seen INEC officials being kidnapped. It happened in Bayelsa. Presently, they burnt down INEC office, burnt PVCs in Obingwa, Abia State. They also burnt in Plateau State. So INEC is vulnerable. So if the state is not functioning, INEC is not omniscient.
So what can we do about this?
Well, I think the most important thing here is rule of law. You see, everybody, as you mentioned in one of the line, that can do anything and get away with it.
Yes.
That has to stop. The law is there to apprehend and deal with every situation in the country. It becomes a criminal offense. And it's not about corruption. It's basically a criminal offense, which you are not supposed to do. But then you are protected by whoever it is.
That's right.
There. And so for me, really is the enforcement of that law, the enforcement of rule, that nobody is above the law. And it should be seen as that, simple as ABCD. If people realize that anything you do, you're going to face the consequences of it, they will not do it. But the reality in the country right now is people know that you can commit any crime, as many as you can, and it's who you know that will protect you. And then those that were supposed to actually be the mentors of holding to the rule of law by showing ordinary Nigerian citizens that this is the way to live, most of them are those who are actually breaking the law as well. So if I'm trying to copy somebody, I will look at who am I trying to emulate, who am I trying to copy. Okay, I want to be a politician. Why do many people want to be a politician? Because they can see them going away with a lot of money, a lot of security, a lot of freedom, committing whatever they want to do and still get away with it. So I want to be like that rather than being a footballer or an actor who means that it will take ages before I get to that position. So we need to break that down. We need to become really a democratic nation. Yes. Right now we're kind of a dictatorial democracy, not just from the top, but all the way from anybody that is electable. The moment they get there is bingo, I got it. And at the end of the day, even those who are seeking position knows that the reason why they're seeking position, to be honest, is not because they want to go and serve the people. They believe that by being there, you cannot accumulate what doesn't belong to you, either take away the contract, the proposal, and then make it your own in order for you to just keep eating. So there's a lot of them, but most importantly,
but Mr. Ali, you are contradicting yourself. You are aware that you're also running. Are you saying if your intentions as well too? My
intention fully is I'm totally different from the rest. I come from the background of knowing what my country desire as of today. I come from the background that I'm not seeking an appointment. Many other people might be thinking that, okay, well, let's just come forth and let them know also that we get an appointment. I'm not looking for that. People who are looking for appointment technically, to be honest, are people who don't have a job. If you have a job and you're satisfied with your job, why do you need to decamp or move away into where they say the salary is peanut? And many of them will actually say they are not being paid, but yet you're living a lavish lifestyle. You're accumulating, you're building, you're buying brand new cars, and yet you say you're not being paid. So really, it means that the law needs to go on you. How did you get what you're now manifesting to the world?
Barrister UZOMA, let's back to the law now. Basically, the Independent National Electoral Commission is technically handicapped in handling the situation. So has anybody been caught and brought to justice for actually defaulting or bridging this electoral violence law?
Oh yes, 2015, quite over 100 were convicted in Kano State. The Electoral Act, gives INEC the responsibility of prosecuting electoral offenders, but INEC does not have the requisite manpower. So I'm aware that INEC is collaborating with certain agencies, to ensure prosecution of offenders, and that is why we're also making a good, strong case for electoral offences commission.
Because if it was brought to book, if people were brought to justice or convicted, don't you think it will reduce?
No.
Because they know that once they are being caught with arms, they will go to jail.
No,
Definitely.
People were brought to justice in Kano. There are also some pockets of that's coming up in other states, but when you have over about 84 million voters, if 30 million decide to commit a crime in one day, we do not have the manpower, you see. So the truth of the matter is this. That now brings me to the involvement of the citizen. The Nigerian citizen must realize that we must salvage this country from the excesses of the political class. This is all we have.
Yeah.
This is all we have. It is not their country. It is not their election. It is not their police. It is not their money. It belongs to we, the Nigerian people. And until we decide, how do we decide? We checkmate the excesses of the political class. The political class, the elite, they do not engage in thuggery. But they will make monies available to the unemployed Nigerian youth. They will make drugs available. They will make arms available. Hello, wake up Nigerian youths. Decide not to, if we decide that it won't happen, because they won't bring their children anyway. Their children are not even in the country. They will not bring them and engage them in political thuggery. How many of the children of these elites, have been attending, all these political rallies with them? Those people are well kept. So we must decide to checkmate the excesses of the political class. If we do not, they will proceed unabated. And then, what's our heritage? Where do we go from here?
Can we maybe if we emphasize on the consequences or implications of electoral violence and use this opportunity to educate Nigerian youth, maybe it would need to reduce.
Well, it's still down to the issue of that rule of law. To be honest, whatever it is that people want to do in life, in education, in health, whatever it is that you want to do, there are rules and regulations that need to follow the rules. If the Nigerian people are actually following the rules and regulation, then the country will be much more better. But the fact of the matter is, those who are holding that law, they themselves have questionable characteristics. For that reason, they cannot uphold the same law against ordinary Nigerians or against us. So until we are in the position of allowing the law to be effective, to be implemented, Nigeria will continue to face this same issue. When we talk about the violent talks and whatever it is, how many are they? They're not up to 1 million. Whatever it is, they're not up to 1 million across the whole country. They're not. So are we now allowing 1 million people to hold us to ransom? But of course, a tree does not make a forest, and one bad stone on a plate of food can create a lot of havoc, especially when you're just eating rice and suddenly you chew stone. You know how the whole body will react. That is what we're facing. So for me, that rule of law will need to be implemented, will need to be strengthened. I agree that INEC does not have the capacity, but it's not actually INEC's responsibility to arrest offenders. It is the system that needs to arrest offenders. If it is the police, they need to do their job. If it is the army, they need to do their job. Every section of the system needs to operate independently. And it's not a crime for me to want something good for my life. So for example, when we talk about the politician putting away their family, that is good for the politician. He doesn't want his family to be involved. You are a politician. I am a politician with absolutely difference.
Okay.
I have been serving my country for the last 20 years at home and abroad, selling the viability and the productivity of Nigeria as a nation and Nigerian people as an ordinary citizen. So it's the continuation of what I've been doing, but the truth of the matter is, no matter what it is, violence is there. We have seen it, as I said, of recently across the country in some pocket places, and some of these leaders, rather than giving us messages that inspire and unite us, they continue to break us down. So when you talk about Nigeria, they break you down. When you now go into the state, they then break you down as well by saying, it's not your turn, is the turn of these people. And then even in that local government, the other person is not from your family side, it's from my family side. So we need to begin to talk about what unites us as a nation rather than what continues to divide us. And the rule of law must be effective all across board.
Barrister Suma, you want to talk about some implications of electoral violence?
Yes. Well, one of the implications is, of course, incarceration, and once you are convicted and incarcerated, you lose certain rights. But the greatest tragedy, of electoral violence, for instance, vote buying, for example, is that there's a moral dehumanization. Because all of us, Mr. President has one vote, Vice President, all of us are equal on this platform. Everybody gets a vote. And suddenly, you are offered porridge, and you sell that your one decisive vote. So it's dehumanizing. In fact, it's traumatic. People have said, oh, it's because of hunger. No. People don't get so hungry that they eat their babies. People don't eat their babies because they are hungry. Yes, they don't do that. So, the consequence, it affects you as a human being, as a voter, and it also diminishes. It diminishes the system generally. Okay, and then you can also get incarcerated. You'll be urged to pay heavy fines. But above all, there's one fantastic legislation I must draw our attention to. The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act is the first indigenous legislation that criminalizes the actions of state actors. It says if once state actors are involved in any form of political violence, Section 24 of that fantastic legislation said if they conspire, if they abet, if they aid political violence, state actors, police, and the like, INEC, whoever, state actors, said that law criminalizes their conduct and provides incarceration and even an option of fine. Yes, so be warned.
Okay.
Well,
now, do you want to add something to that?
No, well, until when implemented, everybody knows it's still there.
Yes, it's been there because you said 100 people. We just talked about the electoral violence and the consequences, or people have been convicted. And I looked at 6 states. You are mentioning just Kano.
Yes, Kano. It was, this law is a recent legislation, 2015. So this election will give it's a unique opportunity to try it. And then how does it happen? Citizen involvement. INEC has opened an e-portal. If you see it, tweet it, Facebook it, Instagram it immediately. Let it, once that state official. You see, we must be involved in this process.
Yes. Beautiful. Any recommendations?
Well, I think for me, really, all through this process of going into politics, is just telling people that the rule of law of any nation is the number one parameter to judge that nation. So if we're able to follow that law, the policies from INEC, everybody knows what is going to happen. The consequences are there, either fine or suspension or ban completely from politics. Yes. That should be effective. If they now say, right, any politician that is found to commit so and so, you are totally banned. And it's good that what we are now seeing, at least across the country, be it with one of the political parties whereby they end up losing the candidacy of their party in this coming election. Now it shows that somehow INEC is becoming stronger and the judicial services is supporting them.
Do you want to add something, Barrister?
Yes, finally, I'll urge Nigerian citizens to come out and vote. Not only will you vote, stand there, protect your mandate. Be involved in the process. This is our Nigeria. This is our election. It is also our vote.
Yeah, and I love the fact you said something to use. Please just use the opportunity again to let the youth know. Yes,
and then young persons, a lot. Statistics say that about 51% of registered voters are young people. That is fantastic. What it means is that they are the ones who can decide. If they agree, they can decide who wins or who loses. Let's make use of that numbers.
That's totally true. As a mentoring person who have been mentoring thousands of youth across the country and across the world, I think it's very, very key. As she said, if 51% are actually youth, honestly forget about everything that you've seen so far about the big political parties. You can still go out there and choose a candidate that you absolutely believe can deliver the country and make us better and greater.
Oh, thank you so much for being part of DATELINE. This was very, very, very educating.
Thank you.
I've been talking to Ali Soyode, the founder, Nigeria in Diaspora Mentoring Corps, and also a presidential candidate of the Yes Party. And Barrister Esther UZOMA, the ED Proactive Gender Initiatives, and also the co-convener, Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room. Thank you so much for being part of DATELINE Abuja.
Thank you very much.
Well, the program is DATELINE Abuja. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.